body. Now, the main angioplasty aims are A, to maximize luminal gain, B, ideally avoid dissections, ideally avoid stenting, and I have another talk on stenting later on. And there have been discussions previously on the ECB talks by Constantino in terms of drug remodeling and perhaps facilitation of drug uptake. So a number of parameters here and a number of different sort of considerations when we are thinking about the angioplasty applications. Now, there are some limitations about stents, and I do understand and I do accept we often need stents, but unfortunately stents often elicit a foreign body reaction, cascade of inflammation. They induce what we call permanent vessel caging associated with, of course, neuroendocrine hyperplasia. They often build a lot of bridges if we have to resort in surgery or more procedures in the future, and perhaps the idea of stent is some kind of no stent or a temporary stent or scaffold. And I'll be discussing about that in my next talk as well. So the concept of atherectomy, and this is an example here, but I think pretty much illustrates the whole essence of my talk. Left-hand side, claudication, distal P1, distal SFA P1, 5 cm chronic total occlusion. This is the application of a rotational device, the Z7 in particular, and after a couple of passes, this is what we get on the second image from the right. And I think many people would argue that probably you don't even need to proceed with any kind of POBA further than that. We did apply a DCB at the time. So this is the whole concept. You start with a complex lesion and you can downstage it. You can debulk it, you can convert it to something softer, easier to treat with less intimal trauma. The whole idea, and again a lot of that is speculation, but it seems to be applicable as we do more cases. Downstaging the task stage anatomy, avoiding the elastic recoil because a lot of the plaque is being removed, of course reducing if not eliminating the need for standing, and perhaps modifying the calcium barrier and the fibrosis of the plaques and reducing the vessel wall biotrauma. And perhaps in the future we might have some solid evidence whether this might actually improve the bioavailability and the outcomes of plaque-coated balloons. Have a look at another very interesting case, 75-year-old male, again short distance claudication. He's got bilateral symptoms. I'm going to show you the left-hand side in this case, and he was papillary. We do an antegrade angiogram, and he's suffering from this popliteal chronic total occlusion, beautiful P2 and P3 occlusion with a 3-vessel runoff. And again, here options may be discussed. Perhaps that could have been also a brain bypass surgery. We cross the lesion sort of very carefully, and the more you want to apply atherectomy, the more careful you need to be with your fine guide whilst trying to avoid the subintimal space, because the results in that case may be suboptimal. On the right-hand side, again, you see the application of a rotational device, and this is the device in this particular case that comes in two different versions. There have been talks about that, but basically this is a front and side cutting device with some kind of aspiration capacity. Left-hand side, we do the first pass with the blades down. In the middle, you see the second pass result with the blades up. And again, you see the stage-by-stage downstaging of this and debulking effect of this complex lesion. Right-hand side, you get immediately apply a coating balloon angioplasty, and this is the final result on the left, on the right. So basically, we started with something really complex, and we ended up no stent, beautiful angiographic result, and above all and foremost, 3-vessel runoff in this critical patient, and he has been working pretty fine without any instance of repeat procedure at the last follow-up instance. Another case that highlights again the applicability of those techniques. This is a chronic combined progressive de novo and instant stenotic occlusion disease. Right-hand side in this case, a constitution in the distal SFA as usually happens, with a nice 3-vessel runoff again. And on the right-hand side, you can see a couple of stents, and in the middle again progressive de novo disease, a little bit of calcification, but this is again a very long distance lesion to be treated from top to bottom. We do 4 passes here, and look at this result. Again, very, very effective plaque debulking, both for the instant stenotic component, but also for the de novo component as well. There is a little bit of residual disease on the upper third of the SFA. We can proceed with slowly coated balloon overlapping applications from top to bottom, and this is the final angiogram. We avoided putting any more stents here, and we will make note that the only site of potential dissection and the only site of potential intimal trauma is the one that was not as effectively debugged on the left-hand side. So this is again illustrates, I think, the local effect of those devices. Don't ever forget to use a filter. We always get debris no matter what the device is. We always use filters with directional and rotational devices, and once you remove those at the very end, you see all the kind of debris there on the right hand side. That might become very catastrophic if you are taking a CLI case. What about calcium? This is a case from publication that illustrates that even in calcified lesions you can have some moderate debulking effect. This is one of our cases. Left-hand side is a baseline angiogram. In the middle you can see all those tandem coral leaf style on the bilateral sides of the vessel calcifications. On the right-hand side you can see the post-debulking effect. In that case we did put a stent in eventually, but it also illustrates the fact how the devices work in those settings as well. So again, two concepts: improve procedural success, avoid putting a stent in, and perhaps improving and facilitating drug uptake and improving long-term pregnancy outcomes. Is there any evidence that it does improve the effectiveness of drug-coated balloons? This is the famous definitive AR study. It did so improve the procedural success and reduction of stents. You can see the numbers on the left-hand side. Minimal effect on patency outcomes. I will note, however, that this is probably a small pilot study, probably underpowered for the purposes of the patency outcomes. We might have to consider repeating that in a multi-center setting. Another observational study, unfortunately, combination of common femoral artery and the drug-coated balloon in a small cohort of 47 patients. There seems to be some effect when we combine the coated balloon technologies with an atherectomy compared to without an atherectomy in the common femoral artery setting. Still, I will note that a nice common femoral artery atherectomy remains the gold standard surgery for this kind of lesions. Now, a further note on the heterogeneity and the complexity of the peripheral chronic total occlusions. And those lesions have nothing to do with the ones that our colleagues in cardiology encounter. In the peripheral vessels, they are heavily calcified, a lot of collagen and fibrotic component, so they are mostly fibrocalcific and not so fatty. And that has to do with the compliance when we do angioplasty, and also has to do with the extent of the disease, especially in diabetes, and you see how bad it gets as we go further down the knee. And it also has to do a lot with the outcomes. And for example, in the tibial artery calcifications, you see how the rates of success in the bottom and the rates of amputation-free survival drop significantly when the extent of tibial artery calcification increases. And of course, that has to do a lot with the immediate clinical success of our procedures. So what do we consider using in the below setting? I think the rotational devices with those grinding effects, like orbital atherectomy. I practice the rotablatory atherectomy in my lab. So those are very small devices with these grinding crowns in the front. Have a look at this case. This is a patient with a non-healing ulcer after a successful angioplasty of the more proximal vessels. Pretty nice three-vessel angiogram, but as you go down to the foot, you see that the peroneal, the anterior tibial is missing, peroneal not so much collateralized, and if you mark up, you can see the distal PT stenosis just above the bifurcation of the brachial arteries. This is the angiogram if you mark it up, and you can see how the foot is dependent on pretty much this distal peroneal artery. This distal, posterior tibial artery. And this is what we try to dilate. Unfortunately, you see it so tight and so fibrotic and calcified that the balloon cannot advance. The wire can advance, and this is what we do. We get those small devices. Again, those are the small rotablatory ones, and step by step we can bring it down, and we can, you see, we can do a very nice debulking effect. This is before any kind of balloon angioplasty, and this is the immediate result. We can follow that up with our balloon angioplasty, and this is the final completion angiogram. You can see a very, very effective concentric lumen gain without any evidence of residual dissection of the elastic recoil. Is there any evidence there, especially combining atherectomy perhaps with the DCB? Actually, there is a small pilot randomized study The optimized video case study, quite recent, 2022. Right-hand side, you can see very impressive, I would actually call that benefit in terms of primary patency when the Bironi DCP was combined with an atherectomy. I will note that there is no randomized evidence to actually support Bironi application of drug with balloon so far, but I think the effect here highlights the perhaps synergistic effect of the debugging atherectomy with the balloon technology. Follow. Final case here, calcified anterior artery, single vessel to the foot. You can see the pedal arch is missing, collaterals adjusted from the dorsalis apidis, very important vessel to treat successfully. And again, right-hand side, you can see the rotablator. This is with a larger crown. This is a 2 mm crown. You can decide on the diameter of the crown depending on the diameter of the vessel that you are treating. And you can see how step by step you can sort of advance it, and you can have a very nice immediate angiographic result in the middle. Final angiogram right-hand side following a 3 mm balloon angioplasty. So very sort of effective debugging effect with those kind of devices. And this is the final angiogram. This patient still had a couple of wounds that had healed, and he hasn't come back for the procedure over the last 18 months or so. So very nice result. So in conclusion, I think using atherectomy devices has to be considered with an attempt to avoid the permanent implants, perhaps in combination with future therapeutic devices to also help with more physiological vessel healing and reduction of stenosis and to improve the vascular motion of the vessel. Thank you very much.